And in this series, we've been talking about the different aspects of the Arabic language from its origin, different theories from Arabic linguists about the origin of Arabic, okay? About the historical context of the Arabic language, about who was speaking Arabic during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. During the time of the Prophet, was it just the people in the Arab Peninsula, or were there people speaking Arabic in Ethiopia at the time? Were there people speaking Arabic in Syria? Right. So, what was the role of the Arabic language even prior to Islam, politically and historically? We spoke about that last week. We had a real important discussion, which we wasn't able to finish, about Arabic manuscripts. This is a recap about the importance of Arabic manuscripts and about all of the books that we see published, all of the classical Islamic texts that we see published in modern Arabic. They are based off manuscripts. Okay, so, and we talked about the different discussions around manuscripts, about different publishing houses, right? And how different publishing houses often have their own muhaqqiq, which is the person who goes to the manuscript, they analyze the manuscript, and sometimes they make interpretive decisions that other muhaqqiqun, other people who verify manuscripts when disagree with. And we kind of went into that was the basis of our conversation. Now there's been a lot of talk about when is the Arabic class beginning? When is people seems to be ready to start Arabic? They don't want to hear. It's like they ready to get to Alif Bata, to actually get to learning Arabic, and they're pretty. I don't know if they tired of hearing about Arabic, but that's the message that I kind of. That's what I'm getting. This is what I'm understanding, and to them I say, come after Isha next Friday, and I want to see who want to sign up for Arabic. Come after Isha next Friday, so I could see who wants to sign up for Arabic, and I could speak to you. Because I'm looking for a commitment. This is not going to be I come one day, then I don't come for 2 weeks. No, there's going to be stipulations about if you miss a certain amount of classes, you can't come back. This is going to be very serious. So those who are inquiring about the Arabic language, come after Isha next Friday so I can speak to you personally. I want to know the people who's going to be in the Arabic class. Okay? Secondly, this is just introductions. It's important that we understand the history and we know about the language that we're actually studying. Like, this is so important. Why? Because every person who learns Arabic is a preserver of Arabic. You have to understand your role. It's not that you're just learning Arabic. You actually are part of the transmission of the language. So we have an important role as Arabic learners, that you learn Arabic to memorize Quran, to understand Quran, but by you undertaking that action, you're actually a part of the preservation of the Quran. Learning Arabic is an ibadah. It can be if you have the intention. And if you understand, by you learning Arabic, you are a part of the generation that's continuing learning Arabic from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. You are a part of something great. And this is why it's called the Arabic enrichment. It's not that we just come and we learn Alif Ba Ta, but we also understand the significance and the major role that we're playing. Because if we learn Arabic in this community, we could be from the Salaf in this community who started to learn Arabic. And when you tell a story about the history of Islam in this area, maybe 50 to 100 years from now, when we no longer here, they could say they were the people who brought Arabic here, and they started teaching generation after generation. So learning Arabic is a serious deal, but you won't understand it unless we have lectures like this, so you can understand your place in the Muslim Ummah. This is why we're doing this. This is just not an information session, but it's to motivate you so we can have sustained motivation, so we could keep learning Arabic for the rest of our lives, right? So I just wanted to clarify that to some of the messages I've been receiving about when we're going to start the Arabic. Respect the process, appreciate the lectures. Okay? And then we're going to learn Arabic too as well. But I want you to be well-rounded and wholesome. When you're learning this Arabic language, people ask you, why do you learn Arabic? You know, you say, I learn the Quran. Okay, but what's the significance in that? You could have something to say to non-Muslims as well. You could educate them about these matters. At any rate, I digress. I want to hand the microphone to Maurice. He's going to lead the discussion for today. And we're going to continue where we left off. And then next week, we're going to talk about the different sciences of the Arabic language. So I'm going to bring the whiteboard right here, and I'm going to talk about the different sciences. Poetry, we're going to talk about grammar, sarf, nahu, balagha, arud, ilm wada, al-ishtiqaq. You're going to learn what these things mean and why these sciences were developed and what is the importance of these sciences to preserve the meaning of the Quran. That's going to be next week. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the microphone to Maurice.
Barakallah feek. Assalamu alaikum. So if you all remember anything about my biography, you know that I'm a librarian, and I also used to teach Arabic at the college level. And usually, before I even start, teaching Alif Ba and stuff like that, I usually taught true beginners, so people that didn't know anything about Arabic. And so I would always start off with a lecture like this. Usually it'll probably take about, between 10 and 15 minutes, and there's games and stuff like that. But I wanted to extend it for this community, because, there's a lot, there's a lot of things to say about the Arabic language and its history, and its, just a lot to say. And so, I think keeping that motivation in mind throughout your learning journey is very important. Even when I was in Sudan, I did my master's thesis about the motivations of of Americans and when they learn Arabic. Of course, we know a lot of people are learning for religious reasons, but people are also learning the Arabic language for other reasons. Maybe they want to live in the region where they speak Arabic. Maybe they're yes, business. Maybe even they have familial ties. So they want to learn Arabic for a number of different reasons. And I think also we have to look at the bigger picture. So this is why I'm talking about manuscripts and history and these types of things, because we're actually playing a big role in the preservation of the Arabic language. I don't know how many of you have been in the Arab world anytime recently, but a lot of people are so very, very much losing their interest. A lot of Arabic speakers are losing their interest in the Arabic language. And, Allah might give it to us. We look, maybe, 100, 200 years from now, America speaking Arabic. Inshallah. I mean, don't think it's too far off. Remember Rome, the Roman Empire, it covered from present day Turkey to much of North Africa and Europe. And now we see everywhere that Islam spread in North Africa, the Arabic language spread. So what happened to the Greek language or whatever dialects that they were speaking in those places? So we have to kind of think historically and see what role that we're playing. And so I just wanted to continue and finish up, our discussion about manuscripts, handwritten, handwritten documents. Yes, sir. Any question? Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
I wanted to ask a question that I think that most of us will benefit by, if you care to answer it. It's a little bit outside of where we're at, but you mentioned something that it just made me think about you being a librarian.
Yes, sir.
And I see that Masjid Rahma has opened a library. What is the significance of a library.
Oh, yes. This is actually gets into some of what I will be discussing today. Um, so, so first of all, I'll answer your question in a very long, drawn out manner. So when we're talking about manuscripts, I think we had the question last week. Where are they kept? And if we look here, the ones that we know about, a lot of them are in archives, they're in museums, they're in repositories, mostly in the West, mostly in the West, some in Muslim countries as well. But the ones that we don't know about, of course, they're hidden in people's family homes or wherever they're keeping them. Um, and so, being the bridge between, I guess, preserving in archives and libraries and things like that, uh, I think, particularly African American Muslims, we have we have a very central role that we can play in this, because people in Muslim countries are not giving it to these, academics and people that are coming for their manuscripts. But if we have knowledge of the Arabic language, if we have connections with the people, real connections with the people on the ground, then maybe we can actually play a better role and a significant role in preserving those manuscripts, Mike.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Honestly, I believe that we have a major role in this dunya and in the afterlife and in the journey and in the script of Allah, as I should say, for the simple fact that we need to start thinking larger and stop still trying to scale things to a smaller level, especially once we start claiming La ilaha illallah. And for those who were born in it, we need to have an understanding that everything that we do is major, whether it's learning the transcript or praying salah.
Yes.
Jazakallah.
Yeah. And then there's another question: are these Arabic manuscripts or are they Islamic manuscripts? So if we're looking at, I guess the things that are out there, some of them are both Arabic and Islamic. So they're written in Arabic and they have to do with Islamic topics. But some are Islamic and not in Arabic. And this is what we know as the Ajami text. They're all over the world. So of course we know languages like Persian and ancient Turkish. They were written in the Arabic script. So there's a lot of these works, and a lot of them have to do with Islamic subjects. In fact, someone just sent me a message the other day showing me a manuscript that he found in his family home in India. And so these things do exist, and we're working on preserving them. And then some are in Arabic but aren't Islamic. How is that possible? Some of these manuscripts are in Arabic, but they're not Islamic. Yes, so there's works having to do with Christianity and other religions that are actually written in Arabic. So a lot of the like Eastern Christian churches, they've adopted the Arabic language and they write their script, not their scriptures, but they translate their scriptures into Arabic, and that's their primary language. And some are neither Arabic or Islamic. So there are also, things that are written in Arabic, but they're not, but they're not even in the Arabic language, but they're written in the Arabic script. They're not necessarily Islam. What's that? Amia is Arabic, but no. What I mean actually is something that I'll touch on in a moment. There's something called the Geniza Papers, which was discovered in the Jewish area within Cairo. I think they're somewhere in Europe right now, but these are actually papyri. They're not manuscripts written on paper, and that's actually another level of something that we need to study, but we have to study the manuscripts because we haven't really touched that yet. But in these papers, there's all sorts of languages, all sorts of scripts, and it kind of takes place at a very critical point in Egyptian history, where I guess there was a lot of languages floating around in Egypt. So people might write Coptic in the Arabic script, or they're writing Arabic in Hebrew script, or they're writing Persian in the Arabic script or something like that. So, and this is before Islam really sort of took root in Egypt. So there's quite a bit to study that's out there. And we need your expertise, inshallah. Before we get to that, and so like Arabic codicology, which is the study of manuscripts. There's a lot of things that you kind of have to be familiar with. You can't see the top, but it talks about writing surfaces. So writing on paper versus papyri. Paper was a very critical point in history, and it was actually the Muslims who I think they captured some Chinese combatants who knew how to make paper, and from there, that's what really got the the literary tradition within the Muslim world started. So knowing these different writing surfaces.
Can I say
Yes,
something?
sir.
And this is another, I think, is an important thing to remember. Traditionally, the Muslims benefited from everybody. Like paper, like you mentioned, it was a part of Chinese culture. The Arabs didn't write. You have to remember, Arabs did not write. They were oral. They was on parchments. Like you said, hadiths. They wrote on parchments, right? But with the discovery of paper, when they met other cultures, right? Like you said, they captured the Chinese combatants. The Muslims, they have paper. We could use this to produce our works. The Muslims was always engaged in other cultures. They were not, I have to say this here, the Muslims were not afraid of knowledge. Meaning, they didn't simply just say, well, this is not from the Quran and Sunnah. No, they had what you call this, a process to water out, okay, what goes against the Quran and what goes against the Sunnah. But they were not as stringent as we may think. They benefited from multiple cultures to the point, even during the time of the Khulafa Rashidin, they used the Persian coins. Arabs didn't have coins. They didn't have a currency. But Persia already had a currency. So what they do? They took their coins, they put La ilaha on it, it became Muslim. Yeah, you can see old coins. It's La ilaha illallah on the coins. But the idea is that this idea of currency, they have dinar, of course, but they did not have currency in the way that like high civilization had it, right? Because the early companions were Bedouin. They were people of the desert. They wasn't people of high civilization. So when they came across different civilizations, they said, we could use this, we could use this, we could use this. Right? So this is an important point I just wanted to highlight because I think us as Muslims, we have to be religious, but we also have to keep an open mind. And say if we could benefit from it, I don't care if the French made it, we using it. Like we have to have that open mind like the early Muslims did. And this is the Sahaba. I mean, they didn't have a problem with it. And then when you research like Islamic history, you see that the Sahaba were very religious, but they were very practical. They were very practical and wise. So that's something else I wanted to just make a highlight of for us here. Like we have to be dynamic in our approach as well.
Thanks. So yeah, and there's these other things that you might have to learn about, concerning manuscripts. Codex is another word for a book. How they're binded together, what they use to put them together, how they laid out their papers, their pages. Usually the person that wrote the book wasn't the same person that did the designs and the calligraphy and things like that. Also paleography, having to do with scripts, learning about calligraphy. Actually, my teacher was just doing something my teacher from Egypt, he was doing something for the University of Chicago about Arabic calligraphy. He's both him and his father are, very well-known calligraphers. So, yeah, I mean, we haven't even touched on calligraphy yet. That's very important. So, yes, sir. We have a question.
I wanted to ask, from just your travels, and pursuing Arabic education, is it true that Lebanon has the best printing houses in the Muslim world?
Yes, yes.
Really?
So Lebanon, um, they actually adopted the printing press very early on, and so a lot of the books, there, some of them are Arabic books, and some of them are, some of them are Islamic books, some of them are not Islamic books, but they started printing very early on, and that's actually a very interesting history, and it has to do with what I'm going to talk about in a moment, because prior to um, the 20th century, most of the works were written in manuscripts. And actually, the Muslim world, they were Johnny come latelys to printing. Um, and it actually had to do with some religious issues. uh, because, of course, the printing press, when has it been around? Since the 1600s, right? Or 1700s. Um, and in Europe, they were using the printing press a lot. But then when they first brought it to the Arab world, they had to change the script and everything like that. And so there's actually a story about them printing up the Al-Fatiha, and it was all sorts of wrong. And so the the scholars at the time, they issued a fatwa saying no printing of the Quran, because it's just going to lead to a lot of mistakes. Well, they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and it's going to multiply those mistakes, because you can make printed copies very easily. And so that's why the Muslim world was kind of late to printing. But in terms of, I guess nowadays, you do find a lot of publishing houses coming out of Lebanon. Yeah, I mean, you have them all over the Muslim world, but yeah, the best ones are from Lebanon. Although nowadays, actually, the UAE is, they print very quality material. Um, so that kind of has to do with a person. I'm going to go just through a few case studies of why studying Arabic manuscripts and studying having a deep reading of Arabic is pertinent. So the first person I'm going to introduce you to, you can't really see him that well, um, is Mahmoud Shakir. He's kind of a contemporary figure from Egypt. He passed away in 1998, and he doesn't really have an official title other than maybe writer or literary critic. Um, but he came of age in the earlier part of the 1900s, and so during that time in Egypt, there was a lot of questions about Egyptian identity, because they had just um, gotten through with British colonialism. It was right after World War I, between World War I and World War II. And so in Egypt, there was a lot of questions about identity. Should they embrace an Arab identity, or like a pan-Arab identity, or a pan-Islamic identity? Or should they, you know, be what they call a Fir'auniyya, just embrace a Pharaonic Egyptian identity that goes back to ancient Egypt? So there's all these questions that were in the society at the time. And so there were certain people within the Egyptian upper echelon, like Taha Hussein, for instance, who would reject the the greater the vast majority of Islamic literature and Arabic literature. He would say that you can't really trust Muslim sources; they're very subjective. And Taha Hussein is actually a very famous literateur in Egypt. He's blind. You'll find pictures of him everywhere. Um, and a young Mahmoud Shakir, he had studied literature with I guess people, experts that outside of the academy, outside of university. I guess it's also important to point out that Mahmoud Shakir is actually from a scholarly lineage. His brother was actually a very big Azhari scholar, and he was a qadi, a judge, among other things. And both him and his brother, they combated a lot of this what they call Orientalism, um, about Arabic literature and Islamic sources. So at the time, a lot of Egyptians started to have doubts about the Islamic tradition. They would say things like hadith are made up, and Arabic poetry, that came later. It didn't the ancient pre-Islamic Arabic poetry. It was made up a lot later, and so they would say things like this. And so someone like Mahmoud Shakir, who was a student, he had joined the university actually to study like mathematics or something, and he was a student of Taha Hussein, who put out some of these views. And him having studied literature prior, he just thought it was completely bogus. Not only that, but he found out that Taha Hussein was plagiarizing Orientalists. Margoliath, I think, is the person that he was plagiarizing, and so he dropped out of school. He never went to through the academy, through the Western Academy, and he just kind of devoted maybe like 10 years of his life to what we call a philological reading. So he just sat and read all of the Arab tradition for 10 years. And then when he came out of that, I guess this reading, he wrote a book called Fi Mutanabbi, on Mutanabbi, who's a famous Arabic poet, really dealing with a lot of these issues. So he had of course, he had the background, the scholarly background, and the linguistic background to really deal with some of these issues, these doubts that people had, concerning Islam. And we see that a lot of these arguments resurfacing now, whether it's in the academy or if it's online. A lot of people, claiming that, this ayah is made up, or, they would talk about, for instance, the satanic verses, all these things. These are issues that are coming back up, but we don't know that people actually have already dealt with this, and they've dealt with it in Arabic, and so we have to kind of connect to that tradition in order to get that knowledge and be able to respond to some of these issues. You look like you want to say something.
No.
Okay, so Mahmoud Shakir is the first case study, and also he had a library at his home. His library is still there. My teacher, he's very good friends with his son. He's actually a protege of him, and he said that the way that he actually revived Egyptian interest and love for the Arabic language was just through his library. He would invite a lot of like prominent scholars and people from all over the Arab world. They would come to his home, and not only that, they would discuss some of the books and issues of the day. Wa alaikum assalam. And so it started off much like this. So I think we need to get our library together so that we can start to really read and start to deal with some of the issues of the day.
Yeah, that's one of the I think with this, like you said, like these small discussions here, you don't know what it could grow into, and that's the thing. We talking about manuscripts. We have some youth here. And they may hear this and say, okay, like how could I get into, these discussions? And then if we have a library, for example, I think that should be one of the priorities, is to really develop a good library where people can actually see the Arabic books. Like people, like you have to be inspired, like you have to see it. Having a library would be very like Masjid Rahman, like you said, have done it. I think we should take the same course here and really start to invest in a good library. Um, yeah, robust, very, yeah, like not everything Arabic, right? In the English, right? But we need to really think about a library because we got to be Muslims, but we also have to be intellectuals. We have to be smart. Muslims are smart people. We're smart. We're intelligent, right? So this is a part of our project. This is a part of a bigger project. This is like an introduction, but we also want to start. People got books that they don't need. Come do,
Quite a few in the car.
yeah, I have books in the car. I've been trying to get to the masjid. But we have to start building a serious library. I mean, that's the first step, to have a repository, to start building repositories of knowledge. And I think these things are important. Why? Because it builds the culture. Like we have religion, but culture plays a major part. Whereas, say, one of my close friends, Ibrahim, we go back to high school, right? His children here, and they grew up seeing, just imagine a whole, this whole thing full of books. Sometimes just kids say, man, I remember when I was young, I remember I used to go to the masjid and I saw all of these books. Now you're developing a subconscious culture. That's how we have to start to think. Now we have to develop the environment properly in order to be able to produce scholars. You have to start to develop the environment. And this is a part of something I want to do personally, is to not just, teaching, but also doing things to develop the context for us to do something, great, and to be able to pass this knowledge on, generation to generation. I can't get the words off my tongue. Then, go ahead, Tafadhal. Go ahead, Tafadhal.
Bismillah. Bismillah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
So I'll try to go through very quickly the next two case studies. The first one, Fuat Sizgin, who we talked about a little bit last week. Also, another person who engaged with manuscripts. So he was of Turkish origin, but due to some conflicts in Turkey, he moved to Germany. He became a professor there, and he actually did his thesis or his doctoral dissertation about Sahih Bukhari, and actually discovering, in response to some of the things that Orientalists say, he discovered that al-Bukhari, he used older manuscript tradition in addition to oral histories, in addition to oral testimonies. So he's basically saying that that Sahih al-Bukhari, he was pulling on an older tradition of written sources, and it wasn't just him relying on people's memories, so to speak. He had other source materials that he was working with. And also, we talked a little bit about his history of the Arabic sciences. And so he compiled, basically a database. I mean, it's an encyclopedia set or whatever, but that records various fields of sciences, natural sciences that Muslims were studying, and he classifies them and he locates, where they are, kept in the world. So it's something to be studied, in terms of manuscript studies. Now here's another thing that maybe you all aren't familiar with. Let's see if we can get this picture. It comes a lot. This picture probably comes out a lot clearer on on YouTube. But this is actually from the Abu Hajjaj Mosque, which is in Luxor. Does anyone know what else is in Luxor in Egypt? Not the pyramids. No. So, when people go to Egypt, of course they want to see the pyramids, and they also want to see like the temples and the hieroglyphics and things like that. The pyramids are actually located closer to Cairo, but where you find the things with the hieroglyphics on it, this is actually in the southern part of Egypt, a place called Luxor, and among other places. But in this masjid, there's this masjid that overlooks the temple of Karnak in Luxor, and you really have to go there because it's not part of the tour or anything like that. But this mosque, it has hieroglyphics inside of it, and I guess the person that was telling us the story is that basically, this mosque was built upon a church that was built upon, one of these ancient Egyptian temples. And so I guess after there was a person by the name of Abu Hajjaj, who was a prominent Sufi, who came to this area, and he was talking with the woman that I guess a saint that used to live in that church. She converted to Islam, so they no longer need it as a church, so they converted it into a masjid. And this masjid kind of represents like three different stages of spiritual development within Egypt. Now, I kind of bring that up because there's a field of Arabic Egyptology. So Egyptology in the Arabic language. that actually goes back to medieval times, but we barely know any of this in English because a lot of it hasn't been published. There's actually a work that is in English. It's called uh, Egyptology: The Missing Millennium by Okasha Adali. Um, and there's also some other books there. They're only in Arabic. It's by Nadima Sayyar. But this is actually a very rich field, very rich field of study. Um, Studying Egypt, ancient Egypt, in the Arabic language uh, actually reveals a lot more to you than studying it in the English language. Um, for one thing, there's a cultural continuity to a certain degree. They say like the Coptic language is a more advanced form of the ancient Egyptian language, although it's mixed with Greek and now Arabic, and as well as Nubian. Nubian is also goes back to the ancient Kush, and so a lot of those people now, not only do they kind of retain their native languages, but they're speaking in Arabic, and there's a tradition of people sort of going to these ancient, I guess, their past civilizations and studying it and putting it in Arabic. And I have a list of books. This is not a complete list. You can't see it here, but the books that talk about Egyptology are things like Ibn Wahshiya's Nabatean Agriculture, Muhammad Idrisi's book. It's a book about the pyramids. Mas'udi, if you've heard of him, in Muruj al-Dahab, and Suyuti, among many others. And so this field really hasn't been touched by many people. And I think it's best done through Arabic because a lot of Egyptians, they kept a lot of information about themselves. Um, yes, yes. Suyuti wrote a lot of books about a lot of different subjects. He wrote books about angels. He wrote books about black people, too. And so, studying a lot of this will, we don't have to, make Arabic boring. We can actually find some things that are, pretty exciting to discover in Arabic. And then I'll just finish up, contemporary Arab Egyptology actually kind of aligns with the African centered approach, because they're kind of taking a Egyptian view about at ancient Egypt, in the same way that a lot of African Americans, we kind of attach ourselves to ancient Egypt to a certain degree. They do as well with similar similar focus, but usually they study ancient Egypt from a religious standpoint, not a racial standpoint like we do. Um, I have some other things to say, but I'll stop there, inshallah.
Yeah, I just wanted to wrap up again. This is his field, not really mine. But I think the main point is to say that Arabic, of course, was and still was a major repository of knowledge, and that by us learning Arabic, we get to access these things. That's the point. Sometimes, we want to study religious sciences because that is the primary motivation for us learning Arabic, right? To learn our religion, to study hadith, to study fiqh, to study Quran, of course, tafsir. But even on top of that, you still could do more things with Arabic. You don't have to limit it to that. That's your primary, that's your like your foundational kind of interest. But there's a lot of other things you could do with the Arabic language that could enrich uh, where we are. Professions, you could become a translator. You could translate in courts. I mean, if you get really good at Arabic, you could. I mean, so much you can do with the Arabic. English and Arabic; those are two major languages. So a lot of times, even the students of knowledge, right? Sometimes you see students of knowledge, they can spend like 8, 10 years overseas, right? And then they come back here and they can't find the job, they need help. But it's like, you know Arabic. Arabic is not limited to the masjid. You can find all kind of jobs just from knowing Arabic language, right? You could become an interpreter. You could become a translator. Arabic language open up so many professions. It opens up your dunya and your akhirah. That's the point, right? It's so much you could do with the Arabic language. Is not just don't. So the whole idea is like when you're learning Arabic for religious reasons, that's fine, but don't just limit yourself to religion in terms of using the Arabic language, because it's a heritage, it's a culture, it's a history. So you could use Arabic to benefit yourself in the dunya as well, right? Islamic finance, right, is a big field. That's a field that I'm trying to get into. Islamic finance and banking, but that's a whole nother thing. That's personal. But I got some sheikh I've been talking about Islamic banking with, but that's the whole thing. But these things are important because again, you have things written in Arabic about all of these topics. So it's like you learn a language, you just don't learn. You learn a religion, but you learn a civilization. When you learn Arabic, you have access to 1,400 years of knowledge. And that's the point I'm trying to emphasize. Us learning the Arabic language, we could read in the we're going to talk about this next week. The Arabic language is so preserved that if you learn Arabic well, you could read a book in Arabic from the year 900. But in the English language, try to read a book from the year 1200. You won't be able to understand it because the level of preservation in English is not to the level that it was in Arabic, because languages change, right? Languages change. But Arabic was preserved so we could preserve the meanings of the Quran and the Sunnah. So we always have access to that anytime, 800, 700. We could read hadiths. Think about that. The Prophet ﷺ spoke in 600, the year 600 Gregorian calendar, and we could actually learn Arabic and understand what he said before 1400 years. Is that not a miracle in and of itself? We can't go back and understand English from the year 900. We can't, it's not, it hasn't been preserved. We don't, it's all guesswork. But with the Arabic language, there's no guesswork. The grammar has been preserved. We're going to talk about dictionaries next week. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about a lot. So I'm going to have the whiteboard out next week. So if you want to bring your notebooks, if you want a little bit of Arabic, we're going to talk about it next week, how to learn Arabic. That's the topic next week, how to learn Arabic. Okay, thanks for showing up, all the viewers online. Thanks for your attentiveness. And we see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بسم الله توكلت على الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.